Welcome to the Mind and Magic Mystery School, where we demystify magic and the occult and discuss all things esoteric. Today we're going to count down the top 5 occultists of all time, so let's get into it. Alright, now before we count them down, I'd like to acknowledge that these top 5 lists are subjective. Everyone's going to have their personal favorites and who they think should be at the top of the list, and that's perfectly fine. If you feel that they should be in a different order, or that I've excluded somebody from the list that should be on it, please leave it in the comments. My choices are based upon how influential they are and their body of work as a whole. And I have to say, this wasn't an easy list to put together. The candidate choices were known right away, but the order I have gone back and forth on many times, because all of these choices are very close and difficult to rank. So we'll just start with number 5.
Number 5.
And that is Dion Fortune. Dion Fortune was born Violet Mary Firth on December 6, 1890, and passed away on January 6, 1946. She was a British occultist, ceremonial magician, novelist, and author. She co-founded the Fraternity of the Inner Light, which promoted philosophies that were claimed to have been taught by spiritual entities known as the Ascended Masters. She was a prolific writer and produced a large number of works on the occult. She also had written many novels, and those were of particular influence on modern paganism, such as Wicca, although she herself was not pagan. She considered herself part of the Western mystery tradition and adhered to esoteric Christianity and has been described as a Christian Kabbalist. She is certainly one of the most influential and important female occultists of our time, and her body of work includes The Machinery of the Mind, the esoteric philosophy of love and marriage, the psychology of the servant problem, the problem of purity, the esoteric orders and their work, sane occultism, mystical meditations on the collects, psychic self-defense, the training and work of an initiate, spiritualism in the light of occult science, through the gates of death, Avalon of the heart, the mystical Kabbalah, practical occultism in daily life, the cosmic doctrine, aspects of occultism, applied magic, the magical battle of Britain, principles of Hermetic philosophy, and an introduction to ritual magic. The last several of these being published years and even decades after her death. So that's number 5. After much deliberation, she has a large collection of works, including her own take on initiate training, and I know that her book, The Mystical Kabbalah, is required by the initiation book that I went by, Kabbalah, Magick, and the Great Work of Self-Transformation by Liam Thomas Christopher. If I recall correctly, I'm fairly certain it is. So on to number 4.
Number 4.
Speaking of self-initiation, our number 4 is going to be rather well known for his book Initiation into Hermetics, and that is Franz Bardon. And I've said, and I do maintain, that whichever self-initiation book you go with, whether it be Liam Thomas Christopher's or Cicero's, whosever book it is, it doesn't matter. Whichever one you choose, Franz Bardon's Initiation into Hermetics is still required reading, in my opinion. It's just that extra layer of protection and additional exercises that is really needed when going through a self-initiation. Franz Bardon was a Czech occultist, born December 1st, 1909, and passed away on July 10th, 1958. He's best known for his 3 volumes on Hermetic magic. These volumes are Initiation in Hermetics, The Practice of Magical Evocation, and The Key to the True Kabbalah. There is an additional 4th work attributed to him, Frater the Magician, which lists Bardon as the author, but it's been alleged that the book was actually written by his secretary. But even so, his collection of work is extremely valuable for anyone looking to get into ceremonial magic and hermetics, especially that first volume, Initiation into Hermetics. In my opinion, it should be required reading, even if you've taken another initiation route. Now, unfortunately, Franz Bardon did not meet a very good end He had died from pancreatitis while in police custody. Our number 3 on the list did not have a very good end either, which prevents him from being even higher on the list.
Number 3.
And our number 3 is, you may have guessed, Aleister Crowley. Certainly the most famous of all the occultists on this list, and that's partly why he's only number 3 on this list. Crowley was very much in the public eye of his own accord, leading a licentious and hedonistic lifestyle, while self-aggrandizing with an overinflated ego. At least that's the way it seemed and came off, even if he called himself the Great Beast to ridicule the public's opinion of him. It was still very much an egotistical move. Even the motto and name that he took as an early member of the Golden Dawn, Frater Perdurabo, is interpreted as I shall endure to the end, which may not seem so egocentric if it wasn't for the pomp and braggart ways of Crowley. Crowley died broke and alone of bronchitis with myocarditis on December 1st, 1947. Crowley is a great cautionary example of what happens when you allow dark forces to gain a foothold in your life. His life didn't go seemingly off the rails until he did a certain experiment with a particular demon, at least from what I can surmise. And that's really the danger of the dark side, is that they're not typically going to blast or destroy you immediately. They're going to do it gradually and over time so that you don't notice the changes happening in yourself and around you. Much like the frog in the boiling pot of water, who becomes acclimated to the temperature and won't hop out until it's too late. So if Crowley has all these negative things about him, why is he even on the list? Well, as I said before, my list is based on influences and works, and he had the influence, although much of it negative, but it's his body of work. His body of work is exemplary, and far too numerous to even go over in this video. The most commonly known work by Crowley is the Book of the Law, but if I were to recommend one book by Crowley, it would be 777. And there is a revised edition, and that's perfectly fine. And the reason is it's really a book of correspondences, especially planetary correspondences, and I'm always stressing the importance of correspondences in magical practice. 777's got you covered. It's an excellent book, and a lot went into it. Not much more to say about Crowley that isn't already known. The father of Thelema, he was involved with the OTO for a time. A brilliant author, but had a lot of personal trouble. Now, for our next 2, they're pretty much tied in my mind. I almost had to flip a coin. So, before anyone asks how I can pick one over the other, just know that I consider these next 2 to be equally top tier. But I have to put them in an order for a top 5 list. And so, our number 2...
Number 2
is going to be Manly P. Hall. Manly Palmer Hall was born March 18, 1901, and passed away August 29, 1990. He was an author, lecturer, astrologer, and occultist. He had a 70-year career, gave thousands of lectures, and has published over 150 books, the best known of which is The Secret Teachings of All Ages. He was a 33-degree Mason, and interestingly enough, even a preacher in his earlier years. There's just so many works by Manly P. Hall that, once again, it's impossible to go over them all here in this video. But one of the great things about Manly P. Hall, other than his numerous published works, are the amount of lectures that he's done. And in the digital age, this is especially useful because you can just go right here on YouTube and have a number of his lectures to choose from to listen to, making him one of the more influential occultists by accessibility alone. There's always something you could find to listen to by Manly P. Hall, as well as being one of the most published occult authors of all time, being the founder of the Philosophical Research Society that had its own publishing house, lecture hall, and research library may have something to do with that. And finally, we are to reveal the number 1 occultist of all time.
Number 1.
And that number 1 is Israel Regardie. Now, Regardie was a student of Aleister Crowley, but in many ways had surpassed his former teacher. and is an example of what Crowley could have been without all the antics, ego, and theatrics. He was born on November 17, 1907, and passed away March 10, 1985, from a heart attack. He lived to be 77 years old. He had written 15 books on the occult, many of which are foundational. Much of what we know, we being the public, about the Golden Dawn and their system of magic is due to the works of Israel Regardie. The one main book recommendation of Kabbalah, Magick, and the Great Work of Self-Transformation by Liam Thomas Christopher in that self-initiation course was the book The Golden Dawn by Israel Regardie. And then that book has all the references to the other books that you'll need. His book, The Tree of Life, is foundational also. Now, I know that Regardie is going to be a controversial pick because there have been a few people I've run across that he single-handedly destroyed the Golden Dawn, allegedly because he was Crowley's secretary for many years and Crowley was upset that he was outed from the Golden Dawn. But I don't see it that way. I view his work as foundational again. And I use that word foundational purposefully because my own initiation into magic was based on Kabbalah, Magick, and the Great Work of Self-Transformation. And much of the work referenced in that book is from The Golden Dawn by Israel Regardie. And so if it wasn't for his work, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. And that's why Israel Regardie takes the top spot in our top 5 occultists of all time countdown. Now I realize that's sort of biased, but such is life. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you could help me out by sharing it. Be sure to check out my website, mindandmagic.com, for downloadable programs on magic and the occult in a format of modern media. I want to thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you next time. Take care.